Appreciate you tuning in. It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show, having the crucial conversations that Erie needs. Live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at 5th and State. Also live on Facebook, on YouTube. And I'm glad to welcome back to our microphones Mark Tanenbaum of Paca. Is with us here. Again, the heart and soul of that organization. Good to see you, Mark.
Well, pleasure to be here, Joel.
Appreciate it. We wanted to get you in here because your name keeps on coming up about all these incredible things that have been happening here. But I want to kind of roll back a couple years when you received for the Meyer Building a distinction of, I think it was the first distinction of, this is a City of Erie historic building. Talk about that.
Yeah, so that Paca was fortunate enough to be included in the very first designation of historic properties in the City of Erie. There is a survey going on throughout the city to find those pieces of real estate that have not just age, but historic significance and architectural significance and other components, cultural significance, that would allow them to be placed on the historic register locally. And Paca was fortunate. We applied.
Yeah.
We wanted to be on it.
What's the story with that building? What's some of its history? And again, I know we can get in a rabbit trail there, but
we sure can.
The short story of that.
Our building is on the National Historic Register as well. Wow. So that we were on there first. Mm-hmm. So actually, it was easy because we were on the National Historic Register for us to become on the local historic register. It was almost a gimme to some degree, but we did apply for it, and we wanted to be on it. We have a 3-part mission, and one part is that we produce work. We make art. So we have a wonderful season of plays that we do. I think last year, this year, in this season, I think we did 90 performances, like 90 individual shows. Wow. So on top of that, we do music events and art displays. So that's phase 1 of our mission, is to create art. The second is to have a place where other artists and entrepreneurs can operate in a way that allows them to be successful and sustainable, within our community. We talked before we went on air about the artistic class. Sure. So our goal was to maintain that and retain that into our community.
It could even be somebody that's throwing pots.
Yes.
And they have a place to put their supplies.
Funny you should say that. Clay Space is in the Paca building, and they've been there for 40 years. Wow. They were originally started by the Erie Art Museum, and ultimately the Erie Art Museum, as it altered its focus, it separated itself from that particular component of it. It didn't have the resources to maintain a satellite thing. So they ultimately became their own 501c3. And they've never been better. They have 50 members of Clay Space. They're there all the time. They have a huge space. They have all their own kilns, wheels, rollers, everything there is, all their own glazes, everything. So they're fantastic.
Amazing.
And
so that's kind of like, people that are doing it either as a hobby, as an outlet, or selling the
They're
product,
online, and you can become a member. I recommend it. So Clay Space is looking for new membership. Yeah. You have 24/7, 365 access to the building. You can't live there, but you can work there. You could go there in the middle of the night and work if you wanted to. Wow. You can go there after work and work. And so...
kind of like an artistic co-working space a little bit.
It is. Well, that's a great description of it. And you can interact as much as you want to, or as little as you want to. So you can... But the third part of our mission is to maintain a historic piece of real estate within the country, of course, within the state, the Commonwealth, and within our city that has historic significance. We have a lot of interesting things about our building, and we can talk about that. It's fun. We have time.
So
we want to maintain. But the big thing is utilizing a historic space in a way that pays for itself, so that it's
self-sustaining.
It's self-sustaining, and we're so self-sustaining. Not that we have money to burn, but we pay our taxes. And Paca is a 501c3. We could pay 0 real estate taxes if we chose to. Yeah. All we would have to do is fill out a piece of paper, and we're done. Mm-hmm. We don't fill out that piece of paper, and every single year we pay 100% of our city, our county, and our school taxes. because not only does Paca want to be a self-sustaining entity within our community, but we want our schools to have art classes. If you don't pay your taxes, okay, if people don't pay their taxes, then the schools, the first thing that are cut out of school systems is the arts. And there was no way that I, as executive director, or our board of directors, when we founded founded the not-for-profit, were interested in being successful on the backs of some 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid who doesn't have a chance to play the trumpet, or do art classes or dance or sing, because they don't have enough money to have an extra teacher do enhanced classes, in our school system. No kid aspires to do something or be something that they've never been exposed to. If a kid never saw the banjo, he could be the best banjo player on the whole planet.
Right.
Okay, we don't know. You never saw banjo.
Yeah.
Right. Unless you expose kids to something, you don't know where they're going to take it, and but if you don't expose it to them, they're never going to do it. So we can't do that. So we have enough. We have enough resources that we pay our taxes, and it's a little bit less than $10,000 a year, but and we could have put that into program. We could have paid the executive director a lot more money.
Right. Yes.
But we don't. We choose not to do that because there's a bigger picture.
So tell us the
and
scope.
And the policemen and the firemen and all that stuff.
Of course,
it's all that stuff. Plowing the roads. We're looking right on the street,
Yeah.
Look at the nice job they do.
They do. Tell us the scope of the building. How many stories? How much square footage? And what's occupied? And what are you aspiring for?
Oh well, we're in it. We're in it to win it.
Yeah.
Paca is growing. Our building was built by Henry Mayer. It was the first flagship. It was his flagship enterprise when he built it in 1899. There was just nothing around there at that time.
Was it for manufacturing originally?
Well, his offices
retail?
were there,
Okay.
and there was a printing company in there. There was a sweatshop, a woodworking facility. There was a paper company, a food store. That's where Smith's hot dogs were invented. So there was a food store called the Arcade Market down on the 150709, that section of our building on the first floor. I have photographs of World War I, marching veterans coming home from World War I in front of our building with the guys in the white aprons standing out in front from the butcher blocks, watching the parade go by and the American flags and kids in knickers and, I have photographs of that. So,
that's amazing.
But I'm a psycho about that stuff.
Right,
as
right,
you
right.
only imagine.
Yes.
So I pore over hard to find documentation. There was a paper company at 1501. I have their original incorporation papers and their stamp, their seal, and it's signed, and their papers are signed by the then governor of the state of Pennsylvania. So I have that document just for fun.
That's fantastic.
But anyway, so it's 70,000 square feet. She's a big girl.
Wow.
She is a grande dame. On State Street, there's not a whole lot of buildings that are equal to her in capacity. It's one of the things that attracted me to.
Was it ever threatened during, that whole in the '60s, the redevelopment and all that? Because right across the street,
wrong side of the street.
Yeah.
They only did the other side of the street.
Yeah, because they remember the old Central.
I do remember the old Central Mall. Right, so the old Central Market. That's where Mr. Urbaniak, his whole,
Right.
those guys started. Their dad started there. And that's why when they moved to German Street, they called it the new Central Market.
Right.
But that's because of the old Central Market. So when they tore that down, and I was alive when they tore that down, I remember the market, and they tore down that. That was the first big urban renewal push in the city, where they tore 6 square blocks of property down to the level, and it was.
Like people lived there.
Oh, a lot of people lived there. It was a huge neighborhood, and there were movie theaters and hotels and restaurants, and there was a theater. There was so anything south of the tracks from State Street to Peach Street to Sassafras, and then from 15th Street to 18th Street.
To 18th Street.
So that
huge.
grid got completely leveled, and then on our side, on the other side of the block, they built the downtown Holiday Inn and the professional building. And the Coliseum. At that time, it was a bowling alley and a putt-putt and a pool hall called the Coliseum. But that's right where the Coliseum was. That's where the Erie Central Market was.
Okay.
But there were 30 buildings on State Street between the railroad tracks and 18th Street, and now there are 3.
My goodness.
So, and there was also equal amount on on the Peach Street side.
Street side,
And then that whole where the Erie Central Mall is, you know, that, of course, I went there as a kid too. My mother was there. There was a merry-go-round in there and a dot store. And you know, like, I think there was a local bookstore. Gosh, Candyland.
Candy yeah.
World. So that was there. And
Candy World Book City.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Nina Siegel's parents, I think, owned that.
Yeah.
Anyway, they that was a cool space.
Sure.
It was an interior mall place, but there.
I got all of my stuff for school. Yeah. My shoes. Right. There's a Penny's there. Yeah. Kroger's was there. Loblaws was there.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So it was a big thing. But you know. So Dee's cigar store was there, and that was torn down and ultimately
moved across the street.
Mr. Auditory moved to the other side, and there was a market, and that's where Larry is on the other side of Sassafras Street, and Frank is on the other side of State Street. But they tore, they thought it was better.
So somehow the Meyer building in that side escaped all that.
They only tore stuff down on the west side of the street. But even if you look where the Plymouth is. Okay, all the property across the street of the Plymouth, and all the all the other side of the street was torn down, but the Plymouth wasn't, the Baldwin building wasn't, the Renaissance Center, whatever they call that, but all those streets, all those buildings there, and all of the activity, all of the hot stuff, is on the east side of the State Street.
Yeah,
because that's the cool side that has all the neat buildings and the most affordable building is one that's already built.
Right.
Okay, if you already have a building, you can fix it up. There can be costs to it, and ask me how I know.
Right.
But there can be costs to it. But the truth of the matter is, in the long run, maintaining an older building and doing what needs to be done in the long run benefits the community more.
Yeah.
There's more density. Like they would tear down 8 buildings, put one, and then put a parking lot all the way around it. And they would tear down another building, then put a parking lot. So it's death by parking lot.
Has that ever been an issue for you guys?
Yes.
The parking issue?
Well, there is a parking issue, and we wish we had more parking. Yeah,
right.
There's no doubt about it. When we first started out, there were really 6 or 7 to 8, maybe 8 tenants in Paca. When Paca moved into the mayor building and became the Paca building, there were 8 tenants there was only 1 tenant on the first floor, and everything, and there's a couple of scattered around throughout the building. But there are 48 tenants today.
Wow. We're talking to Mark Tanenbaum. We're going to take our first break here. We're learning about Paca, and when we come back, I want to talk about this, what would normally be like this really, really tough situation with getting an elevator replaced. But he's figured it out. At least I think that's what he's going to tell us. We'll be back in a bit. It's a Joel Natale show on Talk Erie. Mark Tanenbaum of Paca is with us here, and we're talking about his classic building, the Paca building, also known as the Meyer building. And we got to do the story about the elevator.
All right.
So it is the oldest elevator in Erie County?
It's the oldest human elevator in Erie County, rather than like a freight elevator.
Right. Or
So it's the oldest.
yeah.
It's the oldest continuously operating, licensed, inspected human being elevator in Erie County that I'm aware of.
Wow.
But I'm pretty on top of this stuff.
Yeah.
So it was. I like to say it was newly installed in I think 1913.
1913. Wow. But
Brand new.
But you've been struggling with it because
Yes.
obviously parts probably have to be
Very
custom
hard.
made, right?
Crazy.
I mean,
it's and just even knowing how to fix it, anybody.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult thing to maintain, and I hope it lasts for another 100 years. But it's the truth is that one of these days it won't work, and it's not prudent to be the executive director of a not-for-profit and not plan for the future. That's
Sure.
my job, to look forward and
Yeah.
to preempt crippling issues that could hurt an organization, sustainability, longevity. The elevator is clearly our biggest problem. I mean, if it were to go down and down hard, it would be, we couldn't use the top floors. We would no longer be ADA. Like our
Right.
second floor, our theater's on the second floor.
wow.
And so right now we are ADA approved, but we are kind of ADA adjacent. Our elevator, we have an elevator operator all the time for elevator anytime we have an event. But truth be told, we need to put a brand new elevator in. One that
So
anybody can come and push a button and go where they want to go.
I was
We have
gonna
to
say,
drive the elevator.
You have to drive the elevator.
Right.
What is, like, other old buildings across the country? Do they necessarily just totally blow it up and put new elevators in, or do they use the old box but put the new technology behind it?
You can do any of those things if you can.
So if money's no object, you could try to maintain the ornateness of that stuff, huh?
If it's large enough. I mean, one of the like there are standards, and the code changes, and
Sure.
and I'm in favor of code. It's safer, it's more accessible. I believe in that stuff. It is problematic and it's difficult to make it work. And that's why people tear down old buildings, because of some of these issues. But as far as the elevator shaft itself, the shaft of an elevator has to have its own, it has to be safe fire coded itself. So that's why you see a modern building being built, and it's almost the elevator shaft is the first thing they build.
First thing that goes
and they
up,
wrap
yeah.
the building around that. It's an
Absolutely.
independent structure within the building, and it has a 2-hour burn time, and doors and fire suppression systems and phone lines and all that stuff that go inside.
Isn't this funny?
I know
The
way
thing-
more about elevators.
I was going to say, I mean, as an actor, as an auctioneer, as a comedian, look at you and your
Yeah.
elevator knowledge.
So you technically have to have an elevator that's large enough to put a gurney in. So the question that people
Sure.
ask is,
when
what if somebody
EMS
had a heart
comes,
attack?
Yeah, EMS comes.
If they had a heart attack, can you stick a gurney in and spin it around?
And that's
And if you
that's
can't-
the standard, yeah.
Then you need a new elevator.
So would you have
Unless
to
you're
replace?
grandfathered in, which we
Oh,
are.
okay, your grandfather.
So we're fine
You
with what
wouldn't
we
necessarily
have.
have to replace the shaft, but
We're not going to get rid of the old elevator. We're going
Okay.
to keep that. We're going to have to build a brand new one somewhere else in the building.
Oh,
that's
okay,
that's
that
the
makes
answer.
sense.
I mean, we can't use our shaft. It's too small. You
Got it.
can't put a modern elevator in that space.
Got it.
And you can't make the walls of the elevator fire retardant to the point that they need to be, and still have the empty hole big enough to to drive the car up and down the shaft. So there's the shaft, there's the
Yeah.
car, there's the pull system, there's the doors.
So
And
would
all
you be
that's
able to
special.
install a new elevator shaft inside the footprint, or would it
Has to
be on
somewhere
the
else
outside?
well, if I could, I would do it outside, but there are still some issues with that.
Okay.
But that would be the least expensive option.
Right.
That's why you see next Junior's Last Lap.
Yeah.
Okay, they put their elevator on the outside.
Right, I
Okay,
saw
now,
that.
Now, when I
yes.
was a kid, there was a bar right there. And I think I must have been 10 years old. I was downtown by myself because my parents couldn't have cared less. And I'm walking around downtown, and it was wintertime, and there was this guy who was drunk. He came out of that bar, and he had like a chihuahua in his coat. And and I said, "Can I pet your dog?" Swear to God. This is the old joke. No, it's not my dog, right? It's like, the Pink Panther joke.
Is
but
it? Where
dog
was
bit me
the
pretty
Where
good.
was the bar next to the
South.
tracks?
Yeah, between the
Okay.
tracks and the
Oh my
building,
gosh,
there's
all
this
right.
little skinny bar.
Yeah.
And not the swinging door. I can't remember what it was called, but it was something like that. And that was like a different bar. But and then the dog bit me, and the guy was like, as I was saying, "Can I pet your dog? Does he bite?" The guy's like, yes, he bites. But in the meantime, my hand was right in the dog's mouth.
Right.
And he chomped this little skinny dog, bit the living daylights out of me. And but that's how I learned. So it's no complaints there. But anyway, so I know that space fairly well.
So
and
the bar is gone, but they put
the bar is gone, and they put the shaft in there. And they built, but they had to build an exterior staircase and shaft for the elevator. I would just have to build an exterior elevator shaft because my staircase is there, and that would still work.
And kind of the Warner, they had to go through this too.
It's very expensive. It's very hard to do.
When they built the addition onto the Warner, they put, and so you have to choose, do I want to go the rear door or the front door?
Yeah, but it's one of the reasons why they built that whole addition was to wrap it around the elevator shaft.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, because the elevator shaft was the key component because you couldn't get from the first floor to the second balcony, the first balcony in that building. And you have to be able to do that.
Isn't that something?
Bathrooms, elevators, those are the expensive
things. They really are. They really are the expensive things. So there's a chance for the public to get involved with this project. So talk about that.
So, I mean, first off, we are raising money. An elevator, our building is 5 stories high. So you can't use what they call a Lula, or they can't use a hydraulic elevator. It has to have a motor on the top and pull it. It's too big. It's too tall to use like a car jack, like you put a car on it, lifts it up. Our elevator's too big, too tall for that. Yeah. So we have to have a pull system and a shaft, and that it's about $500,000. It's about $100,000, maybe $125,000 per floor. But remember, it's the shaft, it's the car, it's the pull system, and it's the doors. So it's 5 sets of doors. So think of what stuff costs these days.
Absolutely.
If somebody said a set of elevator doors cost $100,000, you'd be like, okay. Who knows what they cost, right? And
right.
All right. Well, there's 5 of them. Okay? There's 5 sets of them, and they have to go somewhere. They're pocket doors, so they have your shaft has to be large enough for this elevator to open the doors up and high, so it could go to one side, it can go to the other side, it can split in the middle. But that's your choices, and you have to put it in the right spot for that. Okay. So anyway, it's about $500,000. It could be as much as $600,000 by the time we're done with it. And but the public can help. We have a big campaign going on. We've raised a fair amount of money so far. Terrific. People have been extraordinarily generous to Paca. When we started, we were kind of a ragtag bag, band, and but we've been here for 13, 14 years, and we've put on a lot of work. And we started with a building that was really in bad shape, and it was if we hadn't fixed it, it would have fallen down. Like, we put a brand new roof on that building, and we paid for it ourselves. We did a capital fund drive for our roof. And we raised $10,000 for the roof, and the roof cost $265,000.
Was that at the beginning? Wow.
We were about 4 years into it,
and
we said with this rainy roof, and it was like we were emptying buckets out the back window. I mean, it was like, every time I would get up in the middle of the night and have to go down there at 3:00 in the morning if it was a rainstorm and empty buckets.
Do you think? And I've got 30 seconds.
Oh, sorry.
But do you think that our willingness to support things is because we're requiring more? We have a higher level, a higher standard.
It's way safer. The fire codes are better. Okay, I get it. It's a nuisance, but you don't want your customers to be in peril. Okay?
No,
you want people to be able to come see your show.
And Erie, Erie people deserve the safety. Erie people deserve the quality, and I think that's what's coming about.
And the Erie inspectors are required to enforce federal law, and that's what it is.
Back with Mark Tanenbaum after the news break here on Talk Erie. Talk Erie at 4:34, live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at 5th and State. And down the road, about 10 blocks, about 15th and State, is Paca. And we have Mark Tanenbaum with us here. We're talking about, again, you know too much about elevators, huh?
Yes.
You're going to start a consulting business.
I tell the joke. I said, when you buy a 6-foot A-frame ladder, like a regular ladder,
Yeah.
there's a little strip on the side that has all these watch out for this, watch out for that. It's about 8 inches long. Well, this is an elevator. Okay. If you think they got that many rules for a ladder,
my gosh,
right,
exactly.
Can you only imagine what's involved for an elevator? There's books.
Yes.
There's literally hundreds of pages of stuff that have to do with elevator regulations, and I've done my best to bone up on it. But
That's amazing.
It's, I'm not a genius. I'm a theater boy, and I just try to make it work.
All right, let's talk about what's in Paca and maybe where people can plug in, because you have some big plans too, because there's going to be a build out. So first floor, what do we've got there?
So on the first floor, it's fantastic. So on the first floor, we have leadhead screen printing.
Okay.
So I love him. He does Chris does a great job of screen printing here in Erie. Next door to him is the City Gallery. So Steve and Lena Trahosky run that, and they have all kinds of events and local artists. There's a show on right now of older artists put on by JCAC. So JCAC uses their space, rents it from them, and puts on this big show. And there's probably 50 or 80 pieces of art, like stuff that's made locally. It's beautiful.
So they have regular viewing
sure, they're open all
hours
the
and
time.
things?
I think they're closed Mondays, but I think in general. And then right next door to them is 5,600 square feet, which used to be the arcade market where the hot dogs were invented. This is actually I talked to the Kerns about that.
Oh, did you really?
I actually gave them a photograph of those guys out there because it's probably their grandparents.
Right.
But it's anyway. So he's moved in. So Adam ADHAM is a guy from Syria. And he has opened up the first furniture store in downtown Erie in 50 years.
Wow.
So Paca produces entrepreneurs. So there used to be Reliable Home Furnishings and Epps Home Furnishing and Cohen's Furnishing and Sanner Office Supply and more. I'm blanking on some of the older, but there were 8 or 10. I think Mutual Specialty Company started out in Erie at one point in time before it moved to Parade. So there were a variety of furniture stores on State Street, and now there are 0, except for the Adam who came in and opened up. So I think he manufactures his furniture in Turkey and sells it there. So it's lively, it's a wonderful place, and he would like to have a chain of stores, and he started in Erie.
Fantastic.
So watch him. All right, so he wants to do that, and we helped him get that started as an entrepreneur.
Well, we have that heritage with Union City Chair, and Ethan Allen and all that.
And all of these guys, I mean, anybody that came into Erie but all 4 of my grandparents were immigrants. I mean, all 4 of them, And so to me, having, but there was a can-do attitude and a want to win that I admire, and these guys came with it. And Lena is an immigrant, that does the City Gallery.
So it's great. So that first floor is very retail, and it's full. Yeah,
and that's our business model.
Yeah,
is retail on the first floor, our theater's on the second floor. So on the one side, we've now taken over that whole thing. Originally, we had other renters and studios in the back, but now Footlights Theater has moved into Paca.
Okay.
So Footlights Theater is run by Sarah Little and Casey McCluskey. They kind of own it. And Footlights Theater is the oldest youth theater in the city of Erie. It's 51 years old this year.
I did it in 1977.
I thought you were an alum. I really did. I knew that.
77 or 78.
So you started out early. So
Alex it was Alex Clemente and Jim.
So those guys started it because they thought that there wasn't a theater opportunity for young people, and they were right. And there's still a niche, and there's still a need, and that's why it's still in existence. And so that's Elmy Clemente's dad. So Elmy Clemente was raised in that environment. She ultimately became the executive director of the Erie Playhouse, and Sean Clerkin. That whole thing. That's how this stuff works. It's not nepotism. It's talent that is nurtured over time, and interest in maintaining a kind of an art form that can fade and disappear. Live theater, live. It's not a movie, okay? This is
No.
its own art form. You got to get up out of your chair and drive down and park your car and buy a ticket. So I encourage everybody to come to the Paca shows, absolutely, but come to the Playhouse shows. Go to the Station Restaurant, and if it's not theater, then come to the Philharmonic, come to the Art Museum and the Children's Museum. They need your bodies. You got to get up and go. And if it's not that, then come to the Seawolves game and come to the hockey games. These are live theater. Okay, this is all live, and it doesn't work on film. And it's not something you do on your computer. This is something you need to do.
And there's something very special, and Shani can talk about this too. There's something very special being in that black box theater where the proximity effect is like they could spit on you. I mean, like literally, you are in. The whole immersive thing is a real deal,
and
right?
that's a positive of our little
100%.
theater. So our little theater. Like, you are literally this far away. You are literally 5 feet away from the edge of the stage.
Right.
You can look right at them and see them sweat.
Yeah.
So we are raising money for this, and you can go on our website and donate money. But I want to get off track a little bit and get on onto that part of it, because it's so key and important. Is that Tom Hagen, God love him, all right? Like, he has done innumerable positive things, both publicly, like the 6th Street projects, and many things quietly that people may or may not be aware of his support for institutions and things in the city of Erie. But Tom was very generous to Paca, and he said that he would match any donation that Paca is able to gather this year, up to $500,000.
Amazing.
So
Wow.
our build out on the 5th floor, the new theater we want to put up there. So we want to put a new theater up there. That's new bathrooms, new heating, new HVAC, all the wiring, all the light grid, all the chairs, all, ADA bathrooms, all the fire doors, all the new windows. So everything's expensive. And so it's about $500,000 to $600,000 to do that part of the build out.
Wow.
It's another $500,000 to $600,000 to put the elevator together.
Yeah.
So this is a bit over $1 million, or right in there. So, but Tom said if we raise $500,000, he'll match it.
Fantastic.
So we're on our way. We're slightly under the $100,000 mark.
Okay.
But people have been incredibly generous to us. We've had some people that have donated $25,000 to us. We have a bank that we're talking to that wants to do 3 years at $15,000 a year for 3 years, and Tom will match all 3 years for that.
Wonderful.
So if you're a big donor and there's naming rights. Like, there's art galleries that can be named for you. The stage itself could be named. We haven't done any naming rights. And we're novices at this. I don't profess to be an expert in this thing, but we're doing okay. And if there are generous hearts out there, we are not for profit. You can take it off your taxes, and if you give $1,000, it turns into $2,000. If you give $20, it's $40,000 to that's a big deal.
That makes a lot of difference.
And if you give $100, it's $100. It's $200. So many people donated $100. I don't remember how many people have donated right now, but like 1,000.
Nice.
Like a lot. But sometimes it's smaller money.
Does Erie Gives? You're gonna jump in on that?
We're working. Well, Erie Gives is a big part of our show,
for your
annual
operating.
budget.
Yeah.
We did about $25,000 last year.
Nice.
But people again are incredibly generous. But Tom will match that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the whole deal. So
Anything you raise
we
this
are going.
year.
Yeah, anything we raise this year, including grants. So we are writing grants. They're hard. They're competitive. We're trying our very best. We are looking to try to make a couple $100,000 in grant donations this year, on top of our other things that we do. We fund ourselves. We create our own fund drives. We have a show coming up this year. I don't know if the camera.
Original Works Weekend.
So our Original Works Weekend. So all we, here make me cry. All we know how to do is do art. And so what this is we decided to do a thing for original local playwrights and directors and actors. So we had a contest. I don't know if anybody knew
remember
about
this.
And
Yes.
then they all donated those written works, and then we all read them and then selected from that, and then we got, in many cases, directors that have never directed before but have been in a lot of shows, so they wanted to give a chance to direct something that we contain. So we have these one acts, and it is 5. So there's 2 acts, 5 short plays, and it is June 20th. It's this tomorrow. It's Friday.
Wow.
So 20th, 21st, and 22nd. It's $15 suggested donation. You can donate more. You can donate less. You can just come. But it is,
Would I recognize any of the writers? I mean, who are some
yes,
of the folks?
I think like Brenna is one of the authors.
Neat.
Denise wrote a play. They're edgy. Okay, they're good.
Yeah.
They're funny.
Yeah.
You want to maintain homegrown talent. You want to nurture the talent that we have, and make it better and step the game up. Paca does good work. I mean, no kidding aside. I mean, our lights are great. Our tech guy, Dave, is terrific. So our lights and sound is great. If it's on our stage, it looks sharp. And so this gives people a chance to visualize the work in their brain. Now they see it live. They might want to adjust a little bit, but who knows where this all goes.
Talk about your
So
story.
come to the show.
Please. Yeah, again, it's this weekend. Talk about your story and this concept of handing the baton. Did somebody hand you the baton to say, hey, I see that you could be an amazing performer?
Yeah, I mean that.
But you know what I'm saying? I mean, again, you think about all the different contexts that you performed in.
One of my, my plus and my minuses in my life is that I have been, a shotgun approach to the world as opposed to a laser beam approach. I'm a broader, less deep, I guess, approach to the world rather than this guy who woke up and wanted to be a chemical engineer, and boy, he is, and boy, his house is fabulous, and he has a yacht, and it's great.
You're a generalist.
I'm a much more. I was interested in a lot of different things, and I tried them all, and but I started dancing in the ballet company. With the Erie Civic Ballet Company with Stacia Sublette when I was 13 years old. There weren't a lot of ballet dancers, but Mikhail Brezhnikov was famous, and Edward Villala was famous, and my parents were gracious enough to take me to see art when I was a boy. Wow. And I ultimately wanted to dance, and they let me. And that, and I met Paul Hangauer that taught me there, and Stacia taught me there, and oh gosh, I'm going to blank on his name. He just passed away too, and he's such a great guy. Lighting and tech guy. He danced, and then he did lighting and tech. Oh gosh, I'm embarrassed because he really helped me. But I danced all the way. I lived in Chautauqua.
Wow.
I saw my first opera. So I lived in Chautauqua and danced in the ballet company, in Chautauqua Ballet Company. And, that introduced me to classical music. It introduced me to lights and sound, costume, scenery, painting, dragging stuff around, emptying trucks, opening trucks, dragging, whatever it was. And then ultimately I tried theater, basically, really. I mean, I wrote a play in the second grade that we actually did. I've always wanted to do this. I still remember part of it. So it was about the wind and the blade of grass. And he traveled around the world. And it was a geography play.
Right.
And so I did theater at the Roadhouse Theater with Scott and Kim McClelland, and I was lucky to be on their board. And then so I started doing that, and I did musicals at the Playhouse with Charlie and David, of course.
Wow.
And I did Annie. I did the first. Well, before that, I mean, I did West Side Story back in the 70s, and I did Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and all of that stuff. And of course,
a lot of the classic Playhouse folks you worked with, like Bob and I mean, Bob Martin.
Yeah, Bob. I still see Bob Martin.
Yeah,
Bob is on our show stage every year.
Fantastic.
So it's been a great run, and at the same time, I had all this auction business and all the business end of it, and the real estate business. So Paca kind of is like the thing that kind of put my different interests together, and I talked to Nick Scott one time, and he had done Funtown, and he had done restaurants, and he had done hotels.
Yes.
But Peak and Peak put it all together. Okay, and he said that to me.
Oh wow.
All right,
and that's kind of a later purchase too.
Right. Well, but he took a long time to get there.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And I get that. I'm almost 70 years old. It took a long time to get here. But if you continue in the thing that you love and you work hard at the thing that matters to you all the time, you move yourself into a new position, and you have help from friends and allies along the way. It's great. And I've been like, I feel like, what is it, Lou Gehrig? I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Right. I mean, I feel like
luckiest
guy in the world. But it's I've got to do anything I wanted to do.
And so now these younger ones, these 20s and 30s and 40s, are able to learn from what you have.
And we have a play coming up. We have.
I mean, you talk about these young writers coming up this weekend.
And this is
right?
why we do this, because I desperately remembered what this was like. Radium Girls is coming up at Paca. That starts at the end of June, I'm sorry. Starts July 18th, I guess. What am I doing? Yeah, starts July 18th and goes through July, to June. That was every year we try to have a person direct a real main stage play that is never directed before.
Oh, wow.
So that I started Paca because I wanted to direct.
Interesting.
I knew that I could direct a play. I knew, and that's a whole other thing. Being in a play is one thing, and dancing and doing sets and whatever. But directing a play is its own set of skill set. It's because you have to be the director of the orchestra. You have to play all the instruments, and I wanted to do that. So we make sure that annually that we have somebody that has never directed before a chance to direct, so that you expand the director's pool. In the city, it's hard to direct. You have to have a theater, okay? It's like hard to direct a play, unless you're going to do it on your front porch of your house, which we did. Okay, so we did all that, which we did.
The front porch of your house.
We did Annie
yes.
on the front porch of my house.
That's fantastic.
So, with the neighborhood kids. So it was a good show.
Awesome.
It wasn't a bad show. We did a circus. It was fun.
Before I let you go, again, second floor is the theater. Third floor?
Well, third floor is Clay Spaces in there, and another 20 different studios. And then fourth floor, we finished that about 4 years ago. And that has a couple openings. We have a couple openings. So if you want a studio, call me. 434-0667.
And what kinds of studio? For painters, photographers?
Yeah, painters, photographers, musicians, entrepreneurs, office space.
Is anybody recording anywhere?
Some people do, yeah.
Okay, so you have some recording studios.
And we had
how about video? Anybody doing video?
Yeah, all that. We had, they come and go, But and now the fifth floor, we're going to build a whole new theater up there. We're going to build more studio space for bigger performance things, like the children's theater will probably move to the fifth floor once we get the elevator together and all that. It's going to take a year or two.
Yeah. And you have plans.
Process.
It's all.
So we have signed, stamped BIU blueprints. I've already bought the building permit. I'm shovel ready, and Paca is shovel ready. So if people donate to us, we're not going away. We're going to win. Yeah. We're going to succeed, and we're going to start, and we'll go as far as we can go, and we'll raise more money, and we'll go as far as we can go, and we'll raise more money, and we're going to complete the task. So we're going to finish this.
Talk about, in our last minutes here, Erie as an arts culture. Is it going, to the right and up? I mean, do we still need more investment? What do you think on the overall place of the arts in Erie?
I have no idea what it is about Erie, but we have more talented people in this town than you can shake a stick at. I mean, we just have the most incredible talent pool of the most widest variety of crazy loons that want to do this crazy stuff. Honestly, I mean, whether they're painters or artists or musicians or actors or dancers or whatever. My God, there is so much passion in this town that I must be in the water. I really honestly don't know what it is, but it's like we're Tahoe. There's something about this town, and I go to other places and they're okay. They're doing the best they can, but I mean nothing like the city of Erie.
And it seems like it's getting better.
It is better.
Playhouse shows are selling
Amazing.
out. The Philharmonic sells out.
I'm one of the best in the country. We're one of the best in the country. They can say it all they want. It's amazing. Our field is amazing.
I mean, it's just as, and then you see, big shows happening at your place.
We sell out all the time
at Drama Shop or what, my gosh.
Drama Shop ended up losing their space.
Yes.
As things change, and a lot of those folks are in this show. So a lot of those folks, they still need a place to play, act. And we had David had his problem at Almanac, so I know he's trying to get those things. So this is precarious. If it's not supported, this needs infrastructure, like our kind of theater thing. But even live musicians, if you lose Scotty's and you lose, what's the one, the Goofies, and you lose, you lose the what's the one that was on Liberty Street there? It used to be the Lion. But anyway, all these musical venues, where people played, somebody has to pick up the pieces and put them back together. So when you have a place like the Feed that's doing well, bravo. Okay,
right.
So when you have a place like the Manicore Club that's giving it a shot, bravo. These people are pulling it together. What's the place on 18th and the Philly on the Rocks? Yeah. Okay, I mean, you've got even places like that. Bravo. Somebody... At some point, actors, musicians, dancers, they need a live audience to grow to You can't just do it in your basement. You can't do it anymore by yourself.
Yeah.
You need to perform, and it takes an interaction between a live performer and a live audience for things to work. It's an
That's
interactive.
where the magic
It's
is.
the magic, and when venues close, that dividing line takes place. The musicians are still there. The actors are still there. There's just no place to play.
Website?
Oh, Paca 1505 at Gmail. Is that what? Not Gmail. What do you call it? At Paca1505.com.
Paca15.org.
Paca1505.org. And you can donate, and it'll be matched, and I will call you on the phone and thank you personally. and come to the show this weekend, and come to Radium Girls, and come get a tour. You know, come. We have a ton of stuff going on. Come gallery night. Our whole building's open in gallery night.
Fantastic. Mark Tanenbaum, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it, man.
It's so much to be here. Thanks, buddy.